So you were writing your first novel while you were working at a big law firm?
Absolutely. Finding time wherever I could find it. It took 3 years to finish that first novel. And I was just so thrilled. I just knew Oprah was going to call me the next day. It did not happen, but that's okay.
It hasn't happened yet.
You'd gone from O'Melveny to Toyota. You had a very wonderful position there, and you went in to quit so that you could write full time. Your manager said, "Don't quit, just work part time."
I thought, I can do that? I didn't even think to ask because I didn't think it was a possibility. I was willing to do the work. And despite all the fear and rejection, I really wanted to be a published author, and I was not giving up.
This is Leveraging Latitude, cultivating a full life in the law. Please join us on our journey as we discover how to leverage the hard work of becoming a lawyer to achieving success and leading a rich and fulfilling life in the law.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Leveraging Latitude podcast. I have a couple of guests with me today, and I'm really excited to introduce both of them to you. I think this is really going to be a fun conversation. We'll be talking to Pamela Samuels Young, who is an attorney turned very successful author. But first, I'd like to introduce my Latitude partner, Tori Keith, who brought Pamela to us. Tori is the partner in charge of our Austin, Texas office and is about to celebrate her second anniversary with Latitude. So we're really glad that you're here at Latitude, Tori, and also with us here today on the podcast. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Candice. It's so much fun to be here, and I'm really excited to have our guest, Pamela Samuels Young. I had the good fortune of attending the Center for Women in Law Power Conference back in April, which was held in Austin, Texas. And Pamela was on a panel that discussed career pivots and transitions. She has a great story. I loved how practical her story and her advice was because obviously we talk to people in various career transitions and how to make it happen. And she's got some really great insight on that. And I knew immediately that our Latitude audience would love hearing from her as well. So thank you both. And thank you, Pamela, for joining us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Pamela, it is a real treat to talk to you. I'm sure you know that a lot of us lawyers, or those of us who used to be lawyers, or those of us who went to law school, are big readers. So to kick off our conversation, I'm curious what book you would recommend today for all of the attorneys who may be listening to this conversation.
You know what? This book is everybody should be reading. It's called Journey to the Heart by Melody Beattie. I discovered this book probably 7 or 8 years ago, and there's a passage for every day. I've read it every year since. It's amazing how many times I'll pick it up, and some particular passage will relate to what I'm going through.
Wow.
And it's just encouragement.
Okay, that goes into the shopping cart.
For sure.
I have said before, and I may have even said it on this particular podcast, that book recommendations are my love language. So I appreciate you indulging me in that icebreaker. And for our listeners who may not be familiar with you or your books, your work, your life's work, do you mind introducing yourself to the audience and telling us a little bit about how you transitioned, not just from the law, but you had a career as a journalist even before you went to law school. So tell us about your professional journey and some of the pivots that you made along the way.
I majored in journalism at the University of Southern California, and with a plan to be a newspaper reporter. And my second the summer after my sophomore year, I was supposed to spend the summer at the LA Times Washington Bureau. But the internship fell through. And instead, they sent me to the ABC station, WJLA in Washington, D.C. So now I'm discovering broadcasting. I'm like, oh, forget about newspapers. I got into Northwestern's Medill School of Journalism, their broadcasting program. And from there, I got a job at the ABC station in Detroit. Got tired of freezing, went back home and worked at CBS in LA. So I'm writing for the 5, 6, and 7, and 11 o'clock news. So everything you write is under the gun. It's very fast paced. But after about a few years, I was just burned out. But I didn't know what else I wanted to do. But I did. I thought about law school as an undergrad, but law school was like just scary to me. I mean, it's like I didn't know any lawyers, but here I am. I'm 28, 29, and I'm tired of the fast pace, and I'm just burned out. And I had a real bad day in the newsroom. The tape didn't come up. A producer yelled at me. It was just like a bad day. And I just said, I'm going to law school. Took the test, applied to various law schools, and got into UC Berkeley among many. Finished at UC Berkeley. I go directly to O'Melveny and Myers, which is a major law firm in Los Angeles. My stress reliever was reading legal thrillers. And I'm reading. And then it's like one morning it just sort of hit me. Why aren't there anybody in these books who look like me? There were no women lawyers. And it just sort of hit me, I should write a novel and I should write somebody in the books who look like me. And then I had an interesting sexual harassment case and sort of hit me, this would make a good legal thriller. And so I got up early one morning, like 4 o'clock in the morning, because I had really intense hours. And I decided to try to put this case into a novel. And that's how I became a novelist.
So you were writing your first novel while you were working at a big law firm?
Absolutely. Finding time wherever I could find it. It took 3 years to finish that first novel. And I was just so thrilled. I just knew Oprah was going to call me the next day. It did not happen, but that's okay.
It hasn't happened yet. You mentioned that you primarily write legal thrillers. So one thing that I've noticed in looking at your work as a whole is that certain themes continue to be present in each of your books or over the span of multiple books. So what is that intentional? And what are some of the themes that you like to carry throughout or address throughout your work?
I mean, I like to make sure I'm starting with an issue, not necessarily just a case, but an issue. Looking at the bookshelf, I've dealt with sexual harassment. I've dealt with child sex trafficking. I've dealt with child suicide and bullying. So I'm always looking for something I can wrap a legal scenario around. But it's always my hope that when you finish one of my books, you learn something that you didn't know before.
I think that's really appealing to lawyers who like to read. We're curious, we're intellectual. You talk about current events, you talk about issues. So what is one book of yours, Pamela, that you would recommend as a starting place for people who may be listening and just say, what book should I choose first?
My biggest seller was a book, Anybody's Daughter, about child sex trafficking. So that's my favorite. It won the NAACP Image Award. It's just my most awarded book. But for anybody else, people who like, it's a series book. So people who like series and don't like to read out of order, I would recommend my very first book, Every Reasonable Doubt.
I'd like to put in another plug for Anybody's Daughter. As the mother of a almost 13-year-old myself, I felt like it was, yes, entertaining, but also educational. And so thank you for writing it. It will stick with me. In your brief description of your career, you seem to be someone who makes decisions. You're very decisive, and maybe goal-oriented, I would assume. And those are qualities that a lot of lawyers seem to have in their professional lives or in the work that they do. but that doesn't always translate to their personal lives or the decisions that they make about their own careers. Can you talk about the mindset that you have or you have had at various points in your careers that kind of propelled you past that fear or anxiety of change?
Oh, I've definitely had the fear and the anxiety about change. But also, I'm the kind of person that, like, I think about something and I want to do it and I'm afraid, and then I hit the wall. Like the day when the newsroom where everything just went bad, okay, now's the time. Yeah, I'm scared, but I'll figure it out. And then I go forward. It's just like trying to get published. People look at me now like, oh, you have all these books, it's just easy. No, I still remember how I felt to get that first rejection letter, and more and more and more, but to keep going. So, and you have to push past the fear.
I appreciate what you're saying about, yeah, change is scary. Maybe there are some people who really want to change and who feel a sense of excitement around change, but a lot of times it is scary, but you push past the fear and you do it anyway.
And then you have to remember to look back to other things that you thought were difficult and you got past them, you'll get past this too.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
Well, that reminds me of one thing you said in the panel presentation was that you had this career, and I think maybe you had one published when you decided to quit. You'd gone from O'Melveny to Toyota. You had a very wonderful position there, a very impressive high position, and you went in to quit so that you could write full time. And your manager said, "Don't quit, just work part time." And you were shocked about that. I would imagine that going in to quit such a high powered job was also scary change, even if it's something that you wanted to do.
It was scary. And I think maybe I had, I don't know, 4 or 5 books then, and I was just getting out there. So I was spending every weekend, sometimes I was getting more and more notice. I was flying to book conferences and festivals, so I would be away all weekend and I'd drag myself into work, and then I would still write early in the morning or write at night, and I was just physically exhausted. And I decided, okay, we're going to take the leap and write full time. And when I went to discuss it with my then assistant general counsel, she says, well, why don't you consider working part-time? And I thought, I can do that? I didn't even think to ask because I didn't think it was a possibility. This is an important point. It's important to people that you have a side passion. Don't blow off your day job. Because if I had been blowing off work, they would have been glad to get me out of there. But I was still coming in, giving 100% at work, and they viewed me as valuable, obviously, or they wouldn't have tried to give me a part-time schedule.
Love that.
I think that's an interesting point and one worth repeating about was ultimately the good work that you were doing that then gave you the flexibility or the latitude, if you will, the opportunity because you were valuable to your team and to your company, for them to work with you and give you the opportunity to cut back on hours or what have you. We see that a lot with some of the attorneys that we work with on the, not necessarily part-time within a particular company, but who are coming to us because they want some flexibility, some more hours. They don't want to give up practicing law completely, but they would like to scale back so that they can continue to work on their passion project. And, it's because they've done such good work previously that they're able to continue to work at a high level, earn good money, but maybe scale back on the hours. So I think that is an interesting point and one that is well taken. What would you say? Because I feel like lots of us, a lot of us attorneys are readers, and a lot of us think that we have a book in us, right? But then life happens, work happens, and it just feels like we may have missed that boat, missed that opportunity to check that box off of our bucket list, or that dream was a dream deferred for too long, and so now it's unattainable. What would you say to those of us who are late bloomers?
I don't, you know what? I don't believe that age should be restrictive. I mean, like, I was one of the oldest in my class at UC Berkeley. Most were coming directly from undergrad or had a couple years in between. I had been out of school for 7 years. So, and I published my first book a month before my 48th birthday. So, and believe it, it's 20 years later, I'm 68. I still have a lot more books in me. Okay. So, I just don't believe that age is a limitation. And we're living in this age with this internet and AI. And anything you want to know, it's at your fingertips. This information age is so incredible. So I just say, get past your own doubts and go for it. I don't care if you're 70 and you still want to publish that first book. You can do it. Why not?
Do you have any tips for how to get past that fear?
I'm very good with pros and cons lists, and I'm a planner. Before I decided to make various leaps, I sit down and I plan. What's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario? Just be practical about it. 2, you gotta have a support system. I have like the best girlfriends in the world who we encourage each other, we support each other, we celebrate each other's accomplishments. So who's the person you can go to when you have this crazy fear and they can talk you off the ledge and tell you why you should be doing what you think you can't do? Those things are important.
Well, speaking of support systems at kind of critical junctures, I've used a coach, like an executive coach at times, a group, a class at different times. I've found outside support groups, maybe people that don't know you or rely on you as in a day-to-day, can kind of give you a fresh perspective and encouragement also to kind of tiptoe into whatever it is that you want to pursue.
You mentioned I've done all of those things. I had a writing coach. I was in writing groups. And so I've always, I didn't go it alone. I was an early member I'm now a lifetime member of Sisters in Crime. And that organization, and going to those monthly meetings and hearing from other writers and talking and discussing in their online resources was very, very crucial to my career as a young writer who didn't really know a lot. And I made a lot of mistakes early on. I took a one-day writing program at the UCLA Writers Program, and the instructor said something that had never crossed my mind. He said, take a book that's like yours and outline it. And I had never thought about outlining a novel. I outlined John Grisham's The Firm, and it was like a light bulb moment. I was able to understand plotting and pacing better when I technically looked at how The Firm was put together. And I would tell people, don't put any time limits on it, right? Mm-hmm. When you're first starting out, don't put any deadline on it. Just go for it.
Pamela, do you mind talking a little bit about failure? Excuse me, because I think that a lot of us fear failing, right? I even see this in law school students. I teach a class in law school, and everybody wants to get it right. They want to get the right answer, or new associates, at firms. Mm-hmm. And I was this way too. Like, we're so afraid of making a mistake. And you've mentioned a couple of times now that you had some setbacks, or you had to readjust, or maybe, I'm assuming, rewrite passages and that type of thing.
Yes.
So
yes.
What is your relationship with failure, and how do you look at it?
I've had my share, but they were such valuable learning experiences, because this 3-year process, when I finished this book, and I had those 365-page manuscript, I was like, this is it. This is wonderful. I made copies of it, and I gave it to all my friends so they can come back and tell me Oprah was going to be calling me, and it was dead silence. Nobody said a word. I started sending out to agents. I probably got a couple dozen rejection letters, and I read somewhere that John Grisham did not have success with his first book, so he wrote another one. People don't realize he wrote Time to Kill first. It was published by a small publishing house. It didn't do a thing. Then he wrote The Firm. The Firm took off, and then they reissued A Time to Kill. So I was like, well, if John Grisham can write 2 books, so can I. And so I started working on the second book, which took me a year. And I found 5 friends who said they would tell me the truth no matter what. So, and I will never forget this moment, because this was the exact moment I knew I was going to be a published author. I had taken the books to the Office Depot in my neighborhood to go get it, to get them copied. And when the woman was bringing the box of manuscripts of the book back to me, and she took the box of books and she put it on the desk, and she leaned over and she whispered to me, we could get fired for reading our customers' work. But I started reading this and I couldn't stop. Is it going to be a movie?
Oh,
I must
that's
have skipped
awesome.
out of that store. I floated back to my car. So so what if I had stopped writing after those 24 rejection letters? You know, if you want to dream, you have to have, I have a sign on my desk that says, dreams don't work unless you do. I was willing to do the work. And despite all the fear and rejection, I really wanted to be a published author, and I was not giving up.
What you're describing reminds me of another book that I recently read, Think Again by Adam Grant, an organizational psychologist at Wharton, the Wharton School at Penn. And he talks about the joy of failing. Like if we can make a shift, a paradigm shift or a mind shift into thinking of failing as a learning experience. Like really, I knew more because I failed, I now know more than I did before I failed.
Exactly. The failure was important. It taught me what to do, and what mistakes not to make.
Well, Pamela, this has been such a great conversation. Where can we continue to keep up with you and follow that next book and follow what you're doing?
You can find me at PamelaSamuelsYoung.com. It'll list all my books. It'll also reference my podcast and forthcoming book, Stop Waiting, Start Writing, The No Excuses Guide to Finally Finishing Your Book. And it's really just some practical tips about the fear. How do you find the time? You find time because you plan it. So it has lots of other tips that I think will be helpful and things I wish I had known when I was a new writer. And I'm on all social media platforms. Just put in Pamela Samuels Young or author Pamela Samuels Young, and you will find me. And my books are in ebook, print, and audiobook.
Pamela, thank you so much for your time, for the books that you've written, and also for the tips that you shared today. And we appreciate you spending time with us and look forward to seeing what's next from you.
Thank you.